Welcome to today's session. It is about leadership, but leadership may sound very boring. It may sound very like, why do I need to learn about leadership? But at the core, leadership is about not just being able to lead a team and lead a company, but it's a lot more to do with our thinking patterns. And that allows us to either you're looking to build a small business or a medium or large size business, irrespective of that, it's your thinking pattern that will allow you to attract more people and more business towards you. So eventually it comes down to attracting more business. Like I said, either you're running a small business, a medium or a large business. In most cases, a lot of us here, for example, struggle to attract more deals. That's one of the major challenges I think most of us kind of face. And I believe that if people can see you as a leader, and I'm talking about the perception first, okay? Because perception is reality in the market, okay? If people can see you as an effective leader, that you are the one who is capable of delivering, who do you think they're going to approach first? The person who they can see as a leader, or someone who they see as, I'm not sure. Who do you think they're going to approach first to look after their property, to be able to do a deal with them, and so on? Who do you think they'll approach?
The leader.
That is the key. So they want to be able to see that you are the one who can deliver and can deliver really effectively, and in some cases maybe even efficiently. Okay. So having these characteristics and the thinking patterns required to be an effective leader does play a major part. In fact, for example, Arvind, you're here, Ashwina, you're here, and you are trying to negotiate this deal at the moment. When you speak with people and when you have these thinking patterns, what you're going to observe is that people will be able to see you as an effective leader, someone who can deliver, which allows you to negotiate the deal better, which gives you more credibility in your profile to be able to get the deal as like you would be the priority, if I may say, because now they see you as an effective leader if you apply all of that I'm about to share with you. Okay. I'm going to say, before I share this, quite a bit of this stuff comes from Jack Welch. Raise your hand if you know Jack Welch. He was the CEO of GE, General Electrics, for quite a few years. He took the company from 20 billion to 80 billion. And obviously he resigned when he got to a certain age, but he took the company from 20 billion to 80 billion. Okay. Then he wrote the book, which I read quite some time ago. And what I did was I started applying not just that, but I started applying I sort of integrated my own personality into it. Okay. And I started working to see how it's gonna, because you can't just take someone's formula the way it is. You can never do that. So it's almost like what I'm about to share with you. You can't just take it the way it is. You have to incorporate that into your own personality and see how it works for you. Okay. Because if you just take it as it is, it will actually feel fake. Okay. It won't feel real. It starts to feel real when you actually incorporate it into your own personality. But you don't change anything major. What you change is the minor stuff. Okay. Yes, go ahead. Okay. So the first of them is the rule, which is 10, 70, and 20. Okay. You have the 20 bottom percent people, which you want to get rid of. When I say get rid of, I mean, you just let them go, right? People who are never going to do anything. People are just, it's almost like those people who you feel are going to drag you down. They're going to drag your company. Sorry, could you mute yourself, please?
1 minute. 1 minute.
No worries. So you have the bottom 20% people who you don't want to surround yourself with, you don't want to recruit, you don't want to keep them in your company, you don't want to deal with them, in fact, because all they're going to do is they're going to drag you down. But within the same context, Winston Churchill said that keep your friends close, but your enemies closer, which means if you have enemies in your business, they are your best friends when it comes to feedback. They're the ones who are going to tell you rudely on what is it that you're doing wrong. So keep them closer, okay? But you have the bottom 20% people that you don't want to deal with. Then you have the mid-range, and this applies to your potential prospects as well, okay? So it doesn't just apply to the people that you hire, but it's your potential prospects as well, the people that you work with, okay? You have the middle 70%, which you have to keep nurturing. The reason you see these WhatsApp groups is I want to nurture those 70% people, okay? I want to do deals with them, either it is property deals, finance deals, consulting, mentoring, IT services, training, the whole range of services that we provide. I want to nurture those 70% people. Unfortunately, this middle range is the biggest one. So it does take time to nurture people. So just because you're ready to sell something, Jennifer, this applies to you because you run a network, okay? Massively. Just because you're ready to sell something doesn't mean someone is ready to buy. Okay, you have to learn to nurture those relationships, and 70%, it is statistically proven, 70% of the people come in that range. You will come across landlords who have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 20 properties, but they're not ready to do business with you as yet. But they will be if you nurture those relationships. Does that make sense? Okay, if you keep it's almost like you put it out there like once a week or twice a week or once in 2 weeks or whatever that may be for you, and say, we are looking for more properties, okay? And then if you keep nurturing that relationship, if you keep providing value to that relationship, that landlord will come to you rather than to someone else. Does that make sense? But you have a major a percentage, which is 70%, which needs nurturing of relationship, okay? And this applies to hiring your employees as well. You have the 70%, which need consistent guidance, consistent coaching. Does that make sense? Even when it comes to your prospects or your clients, it is your job to coach them. So you eventually, as a leader, become a coach. So you're coaching your team, you're coaching your prospects, you're practically coaching your stakeholders. Raise your hand if you don't know what I mean by stakeholders. Stakeholders practically means everyone who is connected with your business. Your suppliers, your prospects, your clients, your investors, pretty much everyone. As a leader, you are the coach. Okay? And I'll metaphorically tell you something. A really, really good leader is someone who knows how to meet another person like this. So it's not the person that you're meeting that has to match. You have to match their personality. Does that make sense? You have to meet them where they are rather than expecting to meet you where you are. Does that make sense? Okay, so try to think of it from the perspective of meeting. So let's say you are pitching to someone, or you've met a landlord and you're looking for a deal, or whatever that may be. You met an investor and they have money to invest, or whatever that may be, right? You work out from the GROW model where they are at, and then you meet them there. Does that make sense? Raise your hand if you know what I mean here. I want to make sure that everyone kind of understands this bit. It's very, very important. Okay. So you need to first work out where they are, and then you meet this. So imagine this. This is your stakeholder, investor, prospect, client, landlord, whosoever may be, doesn't really matter. And this is you. You meet them where they are. They're not moving at all. They're exactly where they are. You meet them where they are. Okay? That is what you call effective leadership. Okay? And this is sitting in the framework of 70%. You have the bottom 20%, which you don't want to serve. They're a waste of your time. You're never going to make any money out of these guys. Your business will not become profitable if you chase these people. Then you have your 70%, which you have to keep nurturing, but you have to meet them where they are. Okay. And then you have the top 10%. Okay. These are the people you never want to leave. Okay. Because these are the people who will invest in you. These are the people who will buy most from you. These are the people who will help you most when you're in difficult times. Like literally, these are the people who will help step up every step of the way when you're growing your company. You don't want to leave these people at all. Okay. So if I want to give, I mean, for me, everyone is equal, but let me kind of give you a little bit of context for as much as I know about people. For me, one of the top 10%ers is Harry here. Okay. This is a guy I don't want to leave because I know I see massive potential. Okay. Even though I see potential in everyone, I'm not comparing anyone, but because he's very young and the performance he's showing at this age, he's going to do really, really well if he keeps persisting. He lacks a bit more patience. Okay. He needs to work on his patience level. Okay. But I see him as someone who is going to grow massively. Like by the time this guy is 30, he's going to be a multi-millionaire, and he's either going to be a CEO of his own company or the CEO of another company. Okay. But then what is it this guy is doing within the same context? What is that this guy does that not many people do? Mazi?
Yes, Jack.
Let's just cover the top 10%. I think you can see what Harry is doing that not a lot of people do.
Yep, definitely.
Tell me a couple of things, please.
One of them is having a bad haircut.
Okay. Yes, that is for sure.
So I would say, one, he's persistent, absolutely personally driven, and I would say one of his other strengths is understanding his weaknesses and then tying up with people that can cover them, i.e., I don't know how he wedged himself into that property coffee meet with all those big gunners, yeah. But he actually utilizes the strengths of other people to cover his weaknesses, to drag himself up, and is, I used to call it a networker, but he's a super connector.
Yeah.
So he tries to understand the people that he has around him to be able to build relationships. So I would say those three, and the fact that especially he's persistent, he is quite persistent about whatever his goals are to achieve them. I would say that would make him one of the 10%ers from my point of view.
That is right, Mazi. So one of the main things that everyone needs to do to be the top 10%er is very, very persistent. And when I say persistent, I mean picking up the damn phone and making those 200 calls a day. And he's done it. Okay. So if you think you're not being able to find more deals or investors or whatever it is that you're looking for, pick up the phone and make those 200 calls a day. That's what it takes to be the top 10%er. Okay. That's what it takes. Okay. That's what this guy is doing well. So Harry, don't flatter yourself, stick to it, because you're going to need this for the next 20, 30 years. Okay. It's not a matter of doing it for a day. It's doing it for a period of 10, 20, 30, 40 years before you really become successful. Okay. So stick to that. That's what makes someone a top 10%er. If you make 20 calls and then you come to me and say, well, I can't find deals. Well, don't blame me. Okay. Blame yourself. 20 calls takes an hour. Okay. There's someone sitting out there making 8 hours or 10 hours of calls. Okay. I am doing that on regular basis. I don't make calls, but I message people like crazy. Okay. Like literally, I have a team that messages about 200 people a day. Then I do it on top of that. Like every day we message 200, 300 people, everything. And this is personal messaging going on. So we write, Harry, would you like to, so on and so forth. It's almost every day consistently. Okay. So when you see the network growing, it's because of that persistence of messaging people personally every single day. Okay. And like I said, everyone literally here is capable. You're actually born with the capability of becoming the top 1%er, not even the top 10%, but the top 1%er. If and only focus, if you focus and you listen. One of the best things that I can share with you about Harry is this guy drove 6 to 8 hours sometimes to meet me for like 3 hours. That's how persistent he has been. He has come back to me and applied things which no one here did. Like literally no one. I shared one day about asking 3 whys. This guy came to me a week later and I said, I applied and it worked for me. No one ever did that. Okay? It's about listening and focusing. Raise your hand if you remember what I mean by 3 whys. I want to see who remembers it. See what I mean when I say observing and listening makes a major difference. When you are using the GROW model within the context, make sure that you ask why, as in the sense getting to the main reason why someone is sitting in front of you. Why in 3 different ways to get to the core of the reason to why someone is sitting in front of you. The main, what I call the hot point, or the main reason, the biggest challenge someone has to get to that depth, you have to ask 3 times whys. Okay, guys, that's what 3 whys are all about. Okay, but he came to me and said, I applied that and ended up signing up people. Is that correct, Harry? Okay, makes a major difference. So to become that top 10%er or the 1%er, it's not just persistence, but it is listening, observing, and focusing and applying what you are learning here and everywhere else as well. Okay, so when you see someone who is doing one thing really well, try to get to the depth of it. It's almost like dissecting ideas. One of the things that you're going to observe me doing now, well, I've been doing this for a long time, but you're going to see more of me doing that, is dissecting ideas. So if you were to sit down and write down, why is it the likes of Belfer BT or Barrett's got to this point? If let's say you want to become a major developer, why is it the likes of Barrett's got to this point? Sit down and write the characteristics, or write down the things that these guys did well to be able to get to this point in the first place. Okay, how long does it take? A couple of hours. But once you go through that practice of writing and dissecting why a company got to that point, you'll be surprised those 2 hours will pay you off for the next 20 years. Are you with me, guys? Okay, let's say if you're building a development company, you go to the likes of Barrett's and dissect how they started. What is it that they did right? What is it that they did wrong? And then you don't want to do that. One thing that I can tell you about building a development company is these guys are very, very well connected with 2 kinds of people. One is the local planning officers, and the second is they're very well connected with the government officials. Okay, I came across a piece of land which I thought, this was about 7-8 years ago, was a great piece of land. It was a car park, and I thought, why the hell are they wasting land space by making it a car park? They could just convert it into a car park at the ground level and then build a building on top of that. I went down 5 years later. I didn't go to that region for 5 years. In fact, it was Hounslow High Street. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that region, but I went 5 years later and the whole place is built up. And the only reason for that is these people have connection with the government officials, managing to get planning permissions in places where most people would not be able to get. Raise your hand if you know what I mean. Yeah. So try to, if you are connected with someone who is sitting in the House of Lords, try to create those connections. Those connections come from House of Lords. Okay. They do make a major difference, those connections. If you don't have those connections, start making those connections now. It doesn't take forever. All it takes is a little bit of focus on LinkedIn and the value you bring on the table. Okay. Again, it goes back to persistence, conscious focus of getting the work done. Okay. But in development game, that does make a major difference. Having the right connections with your local planning officers and the government officials, which will eventually lead you to be able to get pieces of land, which you don't normally see normal people getting them. Okay. So going back to the 20% bottom, which you don't want to deal with, 70% who keep regularly nurturing. If you haven't started your WhatsApp groups, what are you waiting for? That's my question. If you want me to give you the PN version of the WhatsApp group, by all means, reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to give it to you so you could start. I will give you the initial traction, because once I start a WhatsApp group and I send it to a few people, they start. If you start your own WhatsApp group, the challenge you might face is that when you only have 10 and 20 people, people are not interested in joining. They tend to leave a lot. Okay. So I can give you that initial traction if you want to start, but I would say start now, because it's time for you to nurture those relationships. Either it is your landlords or it is your prospects, clients, investors, whosoever that may be. They do need nurturing. They need to see what is it that you do on regular basis for them to decide if they want to invest in you, they want to work with you, or whatever that may be in your context. Okay. Because you don't want to leave the bigger percentage of 70%. So you have the 20%, the 70%, and then you have the top 10%, which you don't want to leave. All right. You want to keep nurturing that 10% as well, so you both can grow together. Okay. And this applies to pretty much everyone in the picture. Like I said, either it is your suppliers or your prospects or your investors or your employees, whosoever that may be. This percentage pretty much applies to everyone in the picture. And then you are the one, like I said, who has to coach them. So learn to become a more effective coach, which plays, again, a major part. Okay. Raise your hand if you have any questions so far. I've only covered one point.
I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Another one is candor. Raise your hand if you know what I mean by candor. Candor means keeping it very transparent. Okay. Keeping your company very transparent, keeping the way you do your business very transparent. A lot of people come and tell me that, Jack, you share things which sometimes you haven't even started and it's in the pipeline. Well, guess what? I want to be transparent with people. It's not about, because see, there's a difference between someone who just shares and doesn't do it. I am not that person. When I share something, I am definitely going to do it. I may pivot and change things, but I'm one of those people. So I am always very confident when I'm sharing something that I'm definitely going to do it. Like I said, maybe pivot a bit. But the reason for that is I want to keep it very transparent for everyone, that, look, this is the way I am planning to do this. And then you're going to see it in the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months or whatever that may be. And I think some of the seasoned people here, members here, would know this, that if I'm sharing something, it tends to happen, maybe slightly late, but it tends to happen. Raise your hand if you know what I mean. Yeah. So it tends to happen, but over a period of time. But my aim here is always to be very transparent with everyone and share with everyone that, look, this is what I'm planning to do. This is the change I want to bring. This is what's required for the company to make that change. I literally share that, and I make sure that it gets done. In most cases, it takes a lot longer, but that's the nature of the beast, I guess, being in business. You expect 3 months and it happens in 6 months. You expect 6 months, it happens in 12 months. That's the nature of the beast. Okay. But making sure that every step of the way that you're taking people with you is a part of being transparent. Okay. You don't leave people behind you. Why do you think I keep asking everyone to book their sessions with me on regular basis? Okay. Because I want to take people with me. I don't want to leave people behind me. Does that make sense? Okay. I want to be very transparent about the way we do business. I want to tell you the way it is. I will take you with me every step of the way. That is how people want to see it. Does that make sense? Another thing within the same context is, and I think this is, I think Jennifer, you had asked me, I think some other members had asked me as well, is when you are speaking, what is it that you cover? What is it that you don't cover? And this is something Muzzy and Harry had been laughing over at me, which they've started applying themselves on, speaking off the cuff, which is, I just presented the way it is. I don't plan. In fact, this session that I'm giving, zero planning. No planning at all. Because when I plan, I actually tend to give really bad sessions, okay? So I don't plan. And because I don't plan, I'm off the cuff, which means I keep it very, very transparent. I tell you the way it is. Does that make sense? It doesn't apply to everyone. Some people really, really need to plan every single word. I'm exactly the opposite. You may be that person who wants to practice every single word. Be my guest, that's not a problem. But just make sure that you are presenting it the way it is. Be very, very transparent. Like I said, the more you keep transparent, the more you can become an effective leader and grow your company. Remember, guys, a story that I've shared with a lot of people here previously as well, that I remember meeting this person in London who was leading a company of 400 plus people. And I asked him a few questions, and he said, and I actually asked him as well, you know, I'm glad that you're answering these questions. You didn't, you know, if you chose not to, you didn't have to. And I was asking him questions about growing the company. And he said, you know what? I see you as someone who's going to eventually buy my company. So remember, guys, eventually, either someone here or someone who's going to join us in future is going to eventually lead PEN. Okay? So I have to share with you all the journey that we've been through so you know what PEN is all about. Okay? Remember, guys, in business, either you buy other businesses or you get taken over. It never stays the same. Okay? So if you're growing your portfolio today, don't be surprised that 15 years later, someone in this members group is actually coming to buy your portfolio. Don't be surprised. That's a part of the business. Okay? If you are growing your rent-to-rent business, Muzzy, don't be surprised that someone in this members group is going to buy your business at some point.
They need to have a lot of money.
Oh, some of them actually do have a lot of money. All right. Okay. But what I'm saying is that if you keep it very, very transparent, we are talking about stakeholders here. Everyone is a stakeholder. Okay. Every person who's connected with you. If you keep it like this, very, very transparent, what you'll observe is that they would want to be a part of your journey. Muzzy, if you came to me and said, I am making, let's say in 6 months' time, you're capable of tracking the return on investment, and you came back to me and said, I am making 50% return on investment on my money, do you think someone here would be interested in investing in you? More likely, okay? But you need to get to that point, right? Okay. And the people who are more likely to invest in you are the ones you're closely connected with, okay? And the reason they'll be more closer with you is when you share your journey with candor, okay? Which means with full transparency, okay? Do you have any questions in the middle of all of this? When you start to apply all of this, you'll be surprised you'll have a lot of questions, because you could turn up to me and say, well, how the hell do I share everything? Okay. I probably share about 99%. 1%, the reason is not that I don't want to share, but sometimes I cannot share because that can negatively affect the company. Does that make sense? Okay. Even that 1%, I tend to share over a period of time when it's the right time. Okay. So yes, sometimes I do have to hold on to some information. It's because it's for the benefit of everyone, not just the PEN or the company, but pretty much for the benefit of everyone. There are times when I'll share with you things that you should be aware of. Like the other day, I shared about a group that you should join. Okay. That's for your own personal benefit. Okay. Voice and dignity is the next point. Okay. Remember, guys, if you want to become an effective leader, your main job is to create more leaders, right? That's the main job, right? Raise your hand if you know what I mean. Your job is to create more leaders, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That's at the core. So that means giving people the skills, the voice, and the dignity. Raise your hand if you've ever told someone something that made them feel they're less than you and they got annoyed. Raise your hand if you've done that. Well, I'm raising my hand because I've done it in my life. I've said something while in an argument or something that made people feel as if they're less than me, and that really annoyed them. And this was me in 20s, not anymore. But you gotta give people the voice. You gotta give people the respect that everyone must have. Okay. Another reason why I ask people to host these events, like the Friday coffee meet, or if they want to go live, if they want me to help them with any of those aspects, that's another reason why I ask people to do that, is because it will help you have your own voice. Raise your hand if you struggle to do public speaking. Oh, we have quite a few.
Yeah, I think we all have a bit of a struggle with
that. I do know, I read some stats long time ago that the next thing after death is public speaking fear. Or is it before that?
Actually, the public speaking first before death.
Before death, yeah. So remember, guys, one of my, I would say, job here is to give you that voice, give you that confidence to do public speaking. Okay, and I'll tell you why. Because public speaking also sits at the core. Public speaking is not about public speaking. It's about being able to create your voice. Does that make sense? It's about being able to create your voice. It's almost like you want to get to a point. I'll give you an example. Arvind, Ashwina, you both are here. I want to give an example on both of you. Now that you're working at a point where you're looking at sort of medium-sized developments, you're going to get to a point where you'll have a team working for you. Okay? 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 people, depending on the size of the project that you might work on. You want to make sure that when you are leading this team, either it is in-house employees or contractors or suppliers or stakeholders or investors, whosoever that may be, they need to see that you have your own voice. Okay? And now I'm not saying just that you have your own voice. You already have that. You're already in jobs that do give you leadership skills, but now you want to raise that bar. Okay? Now you want to really be able to create very, very effectively with people. Learning, as if you're watching me, I tend to change my pitch. I just changed my pitch. Learning to lead really, really effectively. Can you see that? Okay. These are all the minor bits of creating a voice for yourself. Sorry, I'm feeling cold. This is just so learning your voice, learning to your tone, your body language. Sorry, that's why I said I'm feeling cold. So learning your body language skills, learning your tone skills, and really at the core, bringing your voice into all of this, creating more effective leadership skills is all a part of it. Okay. I remember I took some public speaking training back in the days. This is through Toastmasters. If you don't know Toastmasters, I would recommend join your local Toastmasters. It does help. Okay. Raise your hand if you don't know what Toastmasters is. Okay. Guys, Toastmasters is the biggest public speaking non-profit organization in the world. You're going to see a local Toastmasters club pretty much in every town that you are. Okay. And they give you speaking opportunities on stage. It's a paid membership, obviously, but it's very minimal money. I would recommend you join that. It would really massively help you. They meet once a month or twice a month. I can't remember. But Toastmasters it is. Okay. But it's about your voice. Let me speak with Sejal here.
Hey, Jack.
Sejal and Lavanya here, okay? The only way to be able to get your voice or be able to present yourself the way you are is to do more of. Unfortunately, there isn't a magic formula behind it. Okay, there isn't one. Yes, you can learn a few tips and tricks or whatever, but the magic sits in doing it. So if I was you, I would put myself out there. So let's say the coffee meet, for example, Lavanya is doing. Likewise, Sejal, take on that opportunity. Host one of the coffee meets, okay? And then once a week, maybe just go online, okay? Go live. It's start very small, Sejal. Start with one of these sessions. For example, we do between the team, like on Zoom. Start small. No one here is going to criticize you. I promise you that. If they do, they're going to get a kick from me, okay? So, but start small because, like I said, you can learn the tips and tricks, but the only way you're going to come out of this and be able to get your voice is by practicing it. Okay, there is no magic formula. Okay, if anyone tells you there's a magic formula, there isn't one. Yes, Arvind, it makes a major difference when you know your subject well. That is obviously very, very important. But at the same time, it does take a lot of practice. Okay, it literally takes regular practice to be able to get to a point when you are able to convey your message very, very effectively. Okay, so just practice. For those who rose your hand and said we are struggling with this, just practice with very, very small teams in between PEN. You can practice this. Just turn up and say, you know what, guys, I'd like to do this session today. Could you come with me? I'm going to share about a subject. Okay, I'll be more than happy to organize that for you through the Zoom, and we'll record it for your feedback. Okay,
Jack, could I just add something on that?
go ahead, please.
Like I was talking to other people in my own group who are struggling with this as well, and I still have a bit of fear with that as well. What I suggested, which is something that we're starting to do now, is if you find someone who is an expert in their field and they're comfortable talking on camera, you can actually go live with them and be the person who asks the question. It kind of takes the pressure off you, but you're actually publicly speaking as well, and kind of get yourself comfortable with it.
That is true. Yes, yes. That, see, all of this makes a big difference, because if you observe me, in fact, let me tell you a very quick story. You're going to find this a funny one. I went to Toastmasters when I had my first talk on stage. I froze. I couldn't say anything. I forgot the whole pitch. I pretty much forgot everything that I'd prepared. First time I realized I'm the person who doesn't need to prepare. I literally froze. I was a part of the Berkeley Square Toastmasters. And when I finished, when I say I finished, I literally got off the stage in about 10, 15 seconds because I couldn't say anything. I came off the stage. You normally get a buddy. And then after, when the meeting was finished, one of the members actually asked that, how do you, as a Toastmasters organization, how do you deal with someone who just froze on stage? And he obviously said it with a lot of respect, but I literally froze. Can you imagine me freezing on stage? And this wasn't long ago. This was 2014. Because when I sold my business, I joined Toastmasters, and this was, what, 7 years ago? Okay, so I literally froze on my first gig. So guys, if I can do it, so can you. And public speaking, or for that matter, becoming an effective leader, is all about practicing it. Okay. And another thing that I'd like to mention here is, and this is something that I can relate to personally, in my 20s, I used to argue with people. Okay. When you argue with someone, now you have two fools. Okay, you don't have one fool, you have two fools. Okay, so never argue, because I was one. I'm raising my hand and I'm sharing that with you. I was a fool in my 20s. I used to argue with pretty much everyone, because I was the one who I actually felt I was right all the time. People argue because they feel they're right. Remember, guys, you only have one perspective or one opinion about a situation that could have a million opinions. Okay, so please do not argue with people, because when you argue, you drag people down. Okay, you drag the other person down, and that is not an effective way to lead. Okay, an effective way to lead is that when you share something, try to make it as objective as possible. And if you are maybe even 1% subjective, then you know that 1% the other person can be objective about, which means that that person is right to some extent. Okay, so you want to make sure that you bring people up rather than dragging them down. Does that make sense? Okay, the most effective leader is someone who can inspire people, someone who can bring people up, someone who can coach people. Okay, don't go out coaching people if you haven't taken their permission. Okay, if you coach people without their permission, you're creating enemies. Okay, raise your hand if you know what I mean. Have you ever given advice to someone who hasn't asked you for? Yeah? No? If you give advice to someone who hasn't asked you for, what are you going to get? You're going to get crap. Okay, you're going to get people telling you, why I didn't ask you for your opinion. Okay, please do not go and coach people. But those people who are connected with you and you work with them, and if you think they require coaching, and if you see them giving you some sort of subtle indication that yes, they need help, that's when you help them. Okay, but at that point, your job becomes bringing people up, inspiring them, motivating them, giving them the skills that you are learning here and everywhere else. Okay, someone said, don't argue, speak politely and kill softly. I like that. There's a song on that as well. All right. Okay. Another one, which Muzzy, it's very interesting, and I want to go to everyone on this. Okay. Raise your hand if you struggle with long-term goals, long-term goal planning. I know many of you do. Okay. So I can see quite a few hands here. Okay. I can see quite a few hands here. Okay. Okay. So one of the major things between this is that it's balancing the short, medium, and long-term goals. If you are focused on long-term goals and your short-term is suffering to a point where you're not even able to pay your bills, you've got a problem, right? Okay. Yes, you do. If you are not able to cover your bills, you cannot think long-term. Okay. But it's about balancing them. I'll give you an example. In fact, I'll give you an example on PEN. When I started PEN, I thought I have enough funds to fund phase 1 of PEN. And I thought on phase 2, I'm actually going to go and find external investors. Okay. When I got to phase 2, I was lucky enough to raise more funds, which allowed me to invest into phase 2 as well. Remember, investing in phase 1, investing in phase 2, and now investing in phase 3, this is all long-term planning. This is not short-term planning, guys. All of this is barely paying me anything. Okay. This is all long-term planning. But I started investing into long-term while planning my short-term cash flow. Okay. But when I got to phase 1, and when we finished it, just so you know, guys, I invested more money in phase 1. I could have bought a property with that money. Okay. Like literally, I could have bought myself another property. That's the kind of money I invested in phase 2. Likewise, I invested as much money on phase 2, I could have bought another property. Okay. So this is investing in long-term growth of the business. But I looked at my cash flow and I said, am I capable of investing in phase 2? Now we are getting to phase 3, and I can look at my cash flow and say, yes, I'm capable of investing in phase 3 as well. This is called bootstrapping. Okay. But at the same time, I'm making sure that my cash flow doesn't suffer, which means that I'm able to pay my employees. I'm able to pay my bills. I'm able to pay for everything. Okay, so it's a bit of a balance. You need to learn how to be more creative with money, more resourceful. At the same time, you need to learn to be more smarter with making money as well. Raise your hand if you know what I mean. Yeah, you need to be more smarter when it comes to making money. If you look at any of those range of services that I provide, I don't do much operationally, guys. I don't do much operationally. I generate a lead, I give it to someone to deliver, and that's all I do in most cases anyway. So I look after the marketing, I look after the sales, I look after the PR, and I lead a team. That is all I do in most cases. That's how I've structured my business. Does that make sense? Yeah. So learning to balance the short term and the medium term. In fact, as we speak, I was thinking about running paid ads, which I wanted to see if I have a budget for, and I managed to see a small budget for it. We're going to start doing very soon, maybe in 2 or 3 months time, we're going to start to do paid ads for PEN. But that's again a sort of a short term to medium term planning. So you want to start to be more creative with your cash flow. You want to start to be more creative with your resources and see how you can balance your short, medium, and long-term goals. Okay. And be able to leverage your funding makes a major difference. Some of the members here are sitting on cash and they're not using it. Makes a major difference to the way you grow your portfolio and your property business. You want to learn how to be able to invest that money into not just properties, but in your business as well, and then create that cash flow.
Jack, can I ask, have you got a process in place?
Have I got a process in place
for setting up your long, medium, and short-term plans?
So I tend to write my long-term goals. So if you check my diary, I actually write, like let's say if there's an idea. I'll give you an example. I had an idea about this app quite some time ago, like about 2.5, 3 years ago. I wrote down that idea in my diary. It stayed in my diary for about 2.5 years. And only a couple of weeks ago, I started to implement on it. A long-term goal. It stayed in my diary till I implemented. Okay. But then I have the short term and the medium term. If you come and check my diary, pretty much everything is in here. So if let's say there's a short term goal that I want to achieve. Let's say this month, I need to close X amount of business. Okay. I know roughly how many leads does it take to close X number of business. Okay. Let's say it's on my finance side. Okay. Let's say it takes 20 leads to close one deal. Okay, or let's say it takes 30 leads to close one deal. In fact, the average is about 4 to 5 leads, if I can remember correctly, kind of this COVID period especially. It takes about 100 leads to close about 3 to 4 leads, I would say. Okay, so if I want to close, let's say 4 leads, I want to make sure that I've generated 100 leads. Does that make sense? That's kind of the planning that goes into scheduling here. Okay. In your case, let's say if you are closing, let's say if you look at 20 development deals and you close one, or you look at 15 development deals and you close one, then you know that if you want to close one a month, you need to find 15. Does that make sense? You want to kind of get to that point where you have an idea of this. Potentially you want to get to a point where you have a systematic way of being able to do it. But initially, you want to make sure that you have an idea of how many deals you look at and how many you close to create a stronger pipeline. Does that make sense? Okay. And then in the midst of all this, I have my medium-term goals as well. So for example, the short-term goals are, I want to close X amount of business this month. Then I have the medium-term goals where I want to make sure that phase 3 or the new app that we are launching or the other bits and pieces that we're working on, they go smoothly. So I tend to work in the middle of all of that. And this is all scheduled. It's either in my physical diary or in my digital diary. Okay. And then on top of all of that, all the long-term goals are in the diary as well. But like I said, you want to, or for that matter, we want to get to a point where all this is systematic. You don't want any of this on on pieces of papers and all of that. This all needs to be systematically tracked when you are creating your pipeline of business. Okay. In your context, for example, it's deals. You want to make sure that you keep an eye on how many deals you look at and how many of them do you close. Does that make sense? At the same time, guys, one thing that I was thinking this morning about your deal is, let's say if you come across a deal that has only 20% net profit margin, and then you come across another one which has 22% profit margin. Remember, below 20%, you're just not going to get debt lending, right? Okay. But when you come across a deal that is 20%, another one 22%, another one 25%, and so on and so forth, don't hesitate to take them. Because if you wait for that 30% net profit margin deal, you're going to wait for a longer period of time. Does that make sense? Arvind, Ashwina? Guys, this is for you. I cannot hear you.
Yeah.
This is for you guys, and especially those who are looking at different deals. Muzzy, in your case, is rent to rent. I think you already know that when you come across one that gives you 500 in comparison to waiting for one that gives you 1,000, you just take it on because it's about the volume. Likewise, it applies to pretty much everyone here. When you're looking at a business, you want to play the volume game, because you want to get to a point where you have, at any given time, 10 deals in the pipeline, development deals. If you are on rent to rent, that you are on 50 or 100 rent to rents. Because when you play the volume game, yes, you will have one that doesn't pay you much, but then you have a second one that's going to pay you much higher, and so on and so forth. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about here. Remember, guys, something like Amazon was growing at the pace it was growing, was actually making margins of as little as 2 and 3%. They were working on very little profit margins. But just observe the growth of the company and how fast they've grown. Like, they grew so fast. Now look at the valuations of the company. So don't just look at the immediate profit margins, but the long-term valuations of your portfolios and your companies. Does that make sense? Okay, that's long-term growth. Does that answer your question to some extent? Okay, this is a major one. Paradoxes of being a part of a leader. Okay, I'll tell you what I mean by paradoxical. In fact, everything we do is paradoxical. Okay, you want to do developments, you want to do flips, you want to do property, or you want to do equity, you want to do stock market, you want to do something else, you want to focus on tech, you want to focus on something else. Everything is paradoxical. Okay, like literally you look at one deal and you're looking at another deal and you think, which one do I take on? Everything is paradoxical. Okay, you look at one person and you look at another person and say, who do I work with first? Paradoxical. Every second, every step of the way, you're going to come across situations where you're just not sure which one to go for. Okay, the job of a leader is to take faster decisions. Okay, really, really fast decisions. Okay, guys, so don't think too much. Intuitively, and I said intuition, if your intuition says go for this one, just go for it. In most cases, not all cases, your intuition will be right. Okay, so if you come across a paradoxical situation, just go with your intuition. Okay, raise your hand if you've come across a situation where you've got two options and you don't know which one to go for. Okay, and how did you choose to go for one if you did? Was it based on numbers or intuition?
I was flip a coin, mate, but I'm not sure that's what you're looking for.
No, that's not the best way. It's either based on objectivity or intuition, which means either it's based on numbers or intuition.
Numbers.
Okay?
Numbers.
So, numbers. Okay, so that's good. It can either be intuition or numbers. If you are struggling, if let's say you put the numbers in front of you, they're both the same, how would you choose then? Okay, so that's what I mean by paradoxical. And in your growing your business, you will literally come across this every day, if not every week, if not every day. Just choose the one which feels more intuitively right. Okay. My intuition has become a lot more stronger over a period of time. And in 9 out of 10 cases, it's right. Not in all cases. Okay. So I go with my intuition very, very strongly. But I think that's because I've nurtured my intuition as well. Over a period of time, I tend to test things. So when I go with my intuition, I observe, was this the right thing to do? And like I said, out of 10 times, 9 times my intuition is right. Okay. Now, within the intuition, have you ever played with something that's counterintuitive? I'll give you an example. Okay. Let's say you interview someone and this guy is way too smart. Okay. Or you are dealing with someone, a supplier or whoever that may be. It doesn't really matter if it's an employee you're interviewing. It can be any stakeholder. And this guy is really, really smart, like too good for his own self, if I may say, too smart for his own self. Okay. Have you come across a person like that? I'm just looking at if anyone has risen hand. No. Okay. So, oh, you have. Okay. What do you do with a person like that? Do you just leave them alone, Ashwina? What do you do? I'd like to understand. I'd like to know your perspective on this.
What I did is I grilled them with questions. I really extracted all their energy that day when I interviewed them.
Uh-huh.
They try to make you like look down. They look down
They
on
do.
you at some
They
point.
do. They do. Yes.
But then I was really fierce on them. I really asked them questions. They reached a point where they could not bring me down at all.
Okay. But then was the decision at the end work with them or not?
You need people like that. You have to work with them.
Yes. So coming back to counterintuitive, when you are working with people, either it is, like I said, it can be anyone. It can be any stakeholder in the company, a supplier, an investor, a landlord. It doesn't really matter who it is. Either they're too smart or they're too lazy or any of those whole range of characteristics which you feel that you don't want to work with them. Try to observe and go counterintuitive. What do I mean by that? That if you ever listen to the likes of Bill Gates, he says, I would, if there is a problem to be solved, which is really, really tough, I sometimes tend to hire lazy people. Because lazy people are the ones who would be more creative with finding a solution for the problem. Because they want to look for the lazy way of finding something. Does that make sense? That's counterintuitive, guys. In most cases, our intuition goes with a person who's kind of very similar in nature, similar in values with us. Does that make sense? So you have to play sometimes counterintuitive. You need to go and find people who are lazy. You need to go and find people who are way too smart, people who are all sorts. Okay? And that's playing counterintuitive while you grow your company. It's almost like you want to create a room of people where you're not necessarily the most smartest person. Okay? You want to create a room of people where you're not necessarily the most laziest. Yes, there are lazy people. They will really go and find creative ways. I promise you, I've worked with a few and they really can find creative ways because they don't want to put in the work. Okay? Nothing wrong in being lazy. In fact, as human nature, we are actually lazy beings. Okay? But lazy people who are inspired as well from internal inspiration, they tend to find very, very creative ways to do things. So surround yourself with people that are more smarter, more creative, more lazy, and at different levels, and be able to not just surround yourself with those people, at the same time being able to leverage their strengths. And that is normally very, very counterintuitive from you. Raise your hand if you know what I mean by so far, by this so far. I cannot see pictures. Raise your hand if you know what I mean. This is very, very counterintuitive, guys. Initially, when I started hiring people, I remember I used to just hire people like me. I just wouldn't go for anyone else. And that was the wrong thing to do, guys. The best thing to do is hire all sorts of people so you can leverage their strengths in different ways, allowing your business to scale. And when I mean hiring people, like I said, this doesn't just apply to hiring people, it applies to all stakeholders. So when you see me being able to recruit very, very heavily, can you see through now why I'm able to do that? Yeah. Because I play with my intuition. I also play counterintuitive. I look at the skills, I look at the strengths, I look at the limitations they bring on the table. I can look at everything, being able to adapt in the sense that meet them where they are rather than trying to get them to where I am and then recruit. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because when you have all sorts of people in the group, in your company, you're more likely to scale much faster because they all come with different skills. They all come with different ideas. Does that make sense? Okay. So this is very, very counterintuitive. Hiring the people who are more smarter than you can be very scary. In fact, I've come across people who are really, really smart. In fact, I've come across people who are really, really smart. Like they're so smart, like you actually feel scared from them. Okay. I tend to hire those people as well because those are the people who will bring creative ideas on the table. But then you as a leader need to learn how to lead them more effectively, because sometimes these people can damage the company as well. Does that make sense? Okay. So you need to, as a leader, learn how to manage those people as well. When I say manage, I mean more lead effectively. You don't manage people, you lead people. Okay. Another point within that is resilience. I'll tell you a very quick story. And this comes actually from the book of Jack Welch as well. He said that while I was running GE, there was another CEO on Sony, right? You guys know Sony, yeah? The TV, the electric company, or the electric suppliers back then. They still have phones and everything as the technology products as well. Back in the days, while GE grew from a $20 billion to a $80 billion company, he said, my counterpart or the Sony CEO suffered really, really badly because of various natural causes. In fact, some of the plants that they had in Japan and other countries, they were hit by tsunamis and all of that. Okay. So while we were lucky not getting hit by natural disasters and growing the company, even though Sony was bringing lots of innovation on the table, their company kept suffering due to natural causes. Okay, so they hit a tsunami. I think they had another earthquake in one of their plants, which means that the factory went down. So they ended up losing a lot of money over a certain period of time, even though while they were launching really, really good products. Okay, I'm going to come back to how this applies to your scenario as well. Okay. But he said that if I was to ever compare Sony to GE and we grew from 20 to 80 billion while Sony shrunk as much, Sony was actually a better leading company than us. This is what Jack Welch said. Okay. But Sony really worked with resilience, and exactly the reason Sony survived today. Sony, over a period of time, if you were to ever go and check this, went through a really bad phase. And that's because of natural disasters and regulation changes or the law changes in many countries. And they really suffered badly, even though they were really innovative. So this can apply to you as well. Or in fact, it's applying to us as we speak, even on the most smallest or the medium scale or whatever that may be. You guys, or for that matter, we guys are suffering with COVID, right? Our businesses are suffering with COVID. Raise your hand if it is suffering. Mine is. Yeah. It is, oh, massively, yes, I can see, Seti. It is resilience that counts, okay? Don't worry about COVID. Your job as a leader is to be more creative, more innovative, and keep persisting, okay? Your job isn't to think of the results you're getting, okay? At this moment of time, if you're not getting results, but you're still resilient, and you're still being in, you're still creating, you're still innovating, and you're still creating, you're going well. That's all you can do sometimes as a leader. Raise your hand if you know what I mean. Okay. In this COVID situation, I promise you, many people are suffering, including me. I could grow this company about 5 times more. I'm not able to because of COVID. Okay. But I wake up and I just believe in one thing, that I'm going to be more creative. I'm going to be more innovative, and I'm going to just be very resilient. Okay. And this is what I do every day. Okay. But if you are suffering and you're not able to do more deals, and you're not able to find more deals or landlords or be able to grow your portfolio, guys, you're not the only one. Okay. So as a leader, you need to be more resilient. Okay. You will see growth over a period of time. And maybe last but not the least is foresight. I'm going to elaborate on this. Raise your hand if you can see where iPhone will be in 5 years' time. Can anyone tell me? Okay. Where do you, raise your hand if you can see where, how would the new houses look like in 5 years' time? Have you walked into a smart house in this day and age? Anyone walked into a smart house?
I haven't yet.
You haven't, Seti, have you?
I haven't, sadly, no.
Okay. So guys, you are in property business. You really need to work on this, okay? Foresight makes a major difference. Lavanya, you studied the core revolution, right? Core living revolution. Do you remember that? Are you there, Lavanya? I can't hear you.
Yes.
Driving.
Yes, I can hear you, Jack. Can you hear me?
It's a bit. It's kind of a.
I am driving, but I can hear you.
Okay, it's breaking, Lavanya.
Sorry, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you. Yes, go ahead. Your bandwidth as well.
I did go through the co-living course. That's
Okay.
more about the smart homes as well as more efficiently
Yes.
workable solutions for the.
That is right. Yes. So what do I mean by foresight is that you should be able to work out how does the next 5 or 10 years of housing look like. Okay. If you walk into a smart home, and the houses that we built in Wembley, they were actually to some extent smart homes. Okay. You could control the underfloor heating, you could control the heating, you could control the lighting, you could control many aspects of the property remotely from anywhere in the world. Okay. Let's say you're building for elderly, let's say you're building for over 50s. Okay. and let's say their kids live in Australia or States or anywhere else, do you think people would be more inclined to buy your property if they are able to manage all of this remotely from anywhere in the world, and if they have elderly parents? Raise your hand. Yeah. Smart homes, guys. If you're doing rent to rent, you would attract more people into your rent to rents if you can bring more smart features into your rent to rent. In fact, the funny thing is they don't cost a lot. Okay. From cameras to automated stuff to automated lighting to all of this doesn't even cost a lot. In fact, I walked into a CEF unit the other day, and you could buy a light for £45, which comes with 16,000 colors. One single light that comes with 16,000 colors. Do you think that can be an attraction for your rent to rent? Yeah. Why would people choose your rent to rent over others? Because you bring more innovation. You have a better foresight. Does that make sense? That's for 45 quid. Not a lot of money. Okay. Being able to literally control every aspect of your property remotely is what's available out there these days, guys. Okay. Like literally, you could be sitting in Australia to States, and you could be telling your Alexa to control the lights of your property, any property that you want. Raise your hand if you know what I mean. Guys, it doesn't take a lot of money. You need to have foresight into your business. I'm talking about foresight. That was just an example. If let's say you're building new development, doing a new, like you're doing a flip, you're doing a project, you're building new units or doing a conversion, whatever that may be, you need to have foresight into how do these units look like in the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. Okay. Someone walks into your property, you're selling the property, you give them an Alexa, which is connected to your lights, to your heating, everything. Costs you about £500. You've just created a major advantage for you to sell the property and be able to ask for a major premium. Raise your hand if you know what I mean. You probably invest about £1,000 and you could easily ask a premium of 10 grand. Foresight, guys. Foresight into how does your industry will look like in the next 5, 10 years time. Think ahead. Okay. Harry, in your case, let's say, okay, you're working on creating a network. Okay. Tony Robbins did a UPW with 800,000 people virtually. What innovation are you bringing to your networking? Okay. Foresight. How are you going to make your network more unique? Don't just copy what others are doing. Yes, you do have to copy sometimes. Okay. But bring that foresight into your business. Okay. Mazi? If you write on one of your booking pages, a smart rent-to-rent unit, control everything with your voice, how likely are you to really have high occupancy?
Yeah, absolutely.
What will it cost you? Not a lot. You'll be surprised, not a lot. Okay. Foresight. Arvind, you're looking at development deals. Ashwina, looking at development deals. Make sure they're smart. There's loads of technology these days which cost near to nothing for the premium that you can charge for these units. Okay. Like literally you walk in and I'm buying a brand new unit. I want to see the new technology, which I'm not even aware of. Either I use it or not. I mean, the smartphones that you have in your hand, statistically proven, you only use about 20% features. 80% you don't even know. Statistically proven. including me. I don't even know 80% features of my phone. They're still there, right? Creates an edge for someone to buy that phone. Okay? I'm talking about foresight. I'm not even talking about technology. Are you with me here? Raise your hand. Foresight into everything, guys. Okay? Making sure that the new units you build, can you get this, what do you call these days, what you get on the roof for energy? What are those called? Panels?
Solar panels.
Solar panels, yes, yes. Do your research on that, okay? Over a period of time, you save more money, okay? You increase the value of your properties, okay? But check it. I do not know everything about it. I'm talking about foresight, okay? Being able to see long-term, your 5-10 years of your business, okay? Seti, bro, looking at your business, you manage 300 properties or more, right? What do your landlords, remember, okay, have you tracked the age of your landlords? The average age? Do you know, can you tell me on a graph the 300 landlords that you have and what age group are they?
We're talking about their actual physical age, or we're talking about age of how long they've been with us?
No, age in the sense physical age.
Physical age. Yeah, majority of them are between 50s and 60s.
Okay, so
I would say 80% are.
Okay, so imagine the 50s, 60s in about 10 years' time are going to start to retire and give their properties to their kids.
Yep.
What can you do in your business to keep the business from those kids? Does that make sense?
Baby boomers. Yeah.
Yeah. So a foresight into where your business is going, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, they're the ones. Baby boomers are the ones. Again, we've had to do spot on in regards to knowing exactly your identity of your what they call it, the client. There is another word, and it's gone out of my head, but because they don't just own property, they own commercial. So what we want to do with the SaaS stuff as well, which they've got businesses, is give them something for this.
Of course, but Seti, another thing that you need to be, you may need to do, in fact, you need to do it, okay? Have a system in place where you can track all the measures of your existing business, because if you can track the measures of your existing business, allows you to scale easily. What do I mean by that?
You're talking about key performance indicators.
No, key performance indicators, yes.
Yeah.
But it's not just the key performance indicators, Seti. I'm talking about tracking pretty much everything. I'm talking about literally your target client. If your target client is 50 to 60, then when you run ads, you can on Facebook run ads just target on age group of 50 to 60.
Yeah, that's it. The word I was looking for was avatars. We've been doing
customer avatar. Yes. So and that customer avatar allows you to create a foresight for the next 5 to 10 years as well.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you guys like the mug, by the way?
Send one to me.
I will do.
Emmanuel, Suraj, give me something in your context, so I give you foresight, okay? Emmanuel, in your case, for example, foresight, you're bidding for tenders, right?
Yep.
What does the social housing look like in 5 years' time? Answer this question. Answer this question and work from that point onwards. Suraj, in your case, if you're focusing on rent to rent, or for that matter, if you're focusing on development deals or land deals, what does that look like in 5 years' time or 10 years' time? Okay. Likewise, Chetan, Pami, you need to think ahead. The reason most people struggle with business is because they are copying what everyone else is doing. Stop copying. Be more creative. Have the foresight to see what does your industry look like and work from that point. It's almost like you're starting from where everyone is now. You are ahead of the game. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people tell me,
Yep.
oh, you know what? We struggle to close deals. That's because you're not bringing the foresight and the creativity. Does that make sense? Okay. If you are copying what everyone else is doing, Why would someone do business with you? Don't have a good enough reason, right? Their cousin is an estate agent. Their cousin is an architect. Their cousin is a networker. Their cousin is someone. They have 100 cousins, and everyone is doing something. Why would they work with you? They can just go to their cousin, right?
That's the problem I have. I have such a big family. I'll be honest with you. And if I don't go to them, because I used to do so much, like I've kind of railed down a little bit of networking, but I'm still doing a lot of networking, not directly as in like deliberately networking, but it just happens now. It's organic growth after you've done it.
Yep.
I was telling Muzzy and Harry, I get 3-4 leads a day personally, every day, property, sell, let.
Yep.
And I'm like, I do more than Rightmove, statistically, not being egotistic here as well.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But the reason,
sorry,
go ahead.
yeah.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, because having a big family as well, people used to get really upset. Why are you going to that accountant? Why are you endorsing this other person?
Well, see, let's say my cousin is an architect, okay? And you are an architect. Let's say you, okay, let me take it in someone's context. Chetan is here. Can you
Yes,
hear
I'm
me?
listening. I'm listening, Jack. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So Chetan, let's say you're an accountant.
Mhm.
You approach your potential prospect to work with you. He's got a cousin who's an accountant. In fact, I don't know anyone who hasn't got a cousin who's an accountant. That's the funny thing. Okay. Why would they work with you in comparison to their cousin who's an accountant?
Better services, more accuracy.
No. You
Trust, lower price.
No.
Low balling, yes, lower price.
If you play the lower price game, you will struggle most of your life. Okay. You bring foresight into the equation, which their cousin cannot. Okay. When I say foresight, I mean literally when you speak with them, that they can do their accountancy without having to worry about anything. They can do their accountancy on autopilot, on systems, which is where accountancy is going, right?
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
It's all going on systems. It's all about these days the systems.
Cloud.
Yeah, exactly. Cloud and all of that. The reason they should work with you, or they will work with you, is because you bring foresight into the equation rather than their cousin. Okay. The fact that they will work with you and you can take them somewhere with you rather than their cousin who's not going to bother. Okay.
Yes.
I literally have cousins left, right, and center. Go ahead, Chetan.
But I had this problem. It's very hard to convince people who have their cousins as an accountants or they have their family in business. It's very hard to convince them because they only look for money. So I have this guy. He's a mechanic. He's got his own garage. And I go to him and I approached him for his bookkeeping, VAT returns and everything. And he tells me that, my nephew is an accountant. I pay him £50 a month, who looks after my bookkeeping, my VAT, my self-assessment, annual tax returns, everything for the last 10 years. Why shall I come to you? Why shall I leave my nephew? He's my family. If anything goes wrong, I can approach him 24/7. So the reason I'm telling you is that it's sometimes it's very hard to break eyes on such type of people who have got this, family
mindset.
Yeah, mindset, exactly, because they don't even get convinced and they're not even willing to listen to you. So how do you go ahead, Jay.
This is what I do, Chetan. Look, one thing I can tell you about human nature is that if people can see your vision and share your vision, that's another reason. If people can see your vision, people can see where you are going and you're going a long way, and that you can take them with you, they will work with you. Everything I've just shared with you about leadership just now, if you start to apply that today, your voice, your vision, your foresight, if you bring everything into the equation in your business, people wouldn't want to work with you rather than their cousins. A cousin who does your accounting and doesn't give a shit about anything else, in most cases at least, they would want to work with you. But remember, that relationship needs nurturing. Chetan, just because you're close, just because you're ready to close the deal doesn't mean someone is ready to buy. Remember the 10-70-20 rule?
Yep.
Okay. In most cases, people want to see the vision you bring. People want to see where are you going and where are you taking them? Are you with me?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
That you bring a much deeper foresight and innovation into the game rather than the other person. If the other person is doing manually bookkeeping and doing all of this, and then all of a sudden you bring cloud and you bring less hassle and you bring, for example, leads. So for example, this guy is running a restaurant, for example, and you're doing his accounts and you're able to bring him leads. And this guy is able to take on another restaurant because of you. Do you think he's going to keep with his cousin, or is he going to come to you now?
Obviously with me.
Give them a reason to come to you. Give them a reason. Everything that I've just shared with you guys, remember, do you remember when I said you have to meet them where they are?
Yes.
Don't expect them to come to where you are, guys. If you expect them to come to where you are, you're not a good leader. Nurturing relationship means you can meet them where they are. You create the vision and the company and the foresight and innovation and creativity into the picture, allowing people to work with you. I can almost promise you, I have so many people working with me now, even though their cousins are doing the same things, or people they've known for a long time are doing very similar things. They work with me because they see me as a visionary and they see me as going somewhere and they want to go with me. Raise your hand if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. And I'm not sharing this with I'm not bragging. There's no ego. It's a lot of humility. But you got to have the vision. You got to bring innovation, creativity. You got to have the foresight. You got to be able to nurture those relationships. Literally, in fact, this is funny. I share this story. I actually, when I was running my chauffeur company, I left a card with a company about 5 years ago. I sold my company in 2014. I had a call from someone in 2018. So 4 years after I sold my company and 5 years after I had given them the card, they had called me, oh, can you provide us a few Bentleys? Sometimes it can take as much as 5 years with experience to nurture those relationships and be able to work with some people. Raise your hand if you know what I mean. Okay. So start to apply these things that you're learning. It's not about waking up and doing exactly the same thing the next person has done it. It's not. If you're building the same units as Barrett's is building, why would someone buy from you? They'll just sit around, right? If you are doing the same rent-to-rent model as everyone else is doing, Mazi, why would someone work with you? Why should you have a higher occupancy? You shouldn't have a higher occupancy. You don't have a reason. You've not met people where they are or where they need to be. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's not. See, all of these things that I'm sharing, they don't have very immediate effect, but they have a very long-term good compounding effect. Okay, when you start to share your vision, when you start to bring creativity, when you're more innovative, when you meet people where they are and you nurture those relationships, you can close any deal in this world. In fact, I was listening to this book and he said, if you know how to nurture those relationships well, you can close any deal in the world, any deal that you come across. If you know what their likes are, their dislikes are, if you know what they aspire to be, if you know what is it that they really emotionally want from their life, you can close any deal. Chetan?
Yes,
If the person
yes,
person who is paying £50 to their cousin,
Mhm.
if you bring them new business, if you know their aspirations and you are helping them in the process without expectations, if you know their likes, their dislikes, you wish them happy birthday, if you're literally there for them all the time, do you think they'll eventually give you their business? But this needs to be done on a system. Remember, if you do it with one person manually, you'll never be able to cover a volume, right? This is where the
Very
CRM
true.
system, this is where the CRM systems come in. Okay, knowing
Yep.
their likes, their dislikes, their aspirations, their emotional triggers, all of that needs to go in a CRM system, and then you nurture those relationships. And then you can close any deal that literally you come across. Arvind, Ashwina, I think you came across landlords that don't want to give you their properties.
Yeah.
Nurture those relationships. They may not give them to you now, but if you keep nurturing those relationships without expectations, zero expectation, they will work with you. Okay, but find a way to nurture those relationships. Find a way to bring value to them without expectations. Meet them where they are. Okay, and I keep insisting on likes, dislikes, aspirations, and emotional triggers. Very, very important, guys. Okay, Seti, you wanted to say something?
I was going to say, like they've Arvind and Ravina, hi guys, they've come across that problem. Reach out, and I'll happily go through working on mindset when we go and take properties on. When they don't want to give it to us as a management, they want let only. There's reasons now they'll give it to us management all day long. So I'll help you with that if you like.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Speak with him, yes. So like I said, the reason I'm sharing all of this with you is because if you understand all of these leadership traits and you start to apply all of these over a period of time, that you will start to see gradual improvements, and then compounded over a period of 5 to 10 years, you'll be surprised at how much you'd achieve. Okay, and I'm talking about a medium to large size business. I'm talking about building a medium to large size business. Does that make sense? Okay, anyone has any questions? I'm going to go back through the list again very quickly. Okay, so the first was the 10, 70, and 20 rule. The top 10 percenters, the 70% who need nurturing, and the 20% you don't need to worry about. Candor, being transparent about the way you run your business. Voice and dignity, giving people the voice and the respect that they deserve. Balancing short-term and long-term, balancing short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals. Paradoxical, everything is paradoxical, and using your intuition to choose the right, making the right decision. Using counterintuitive ways to work with stakeholders. Resilience, and last but not the least is foresight. Has anyone got any questions? When you start to implement, you're going to initially find it slightly difficult. It's not easy. It's not easy when you are very new in the business. How the hell do I create a vision? It's not easy. But write it down. Yes, you can change things, you can pivot things, you can make improvements, you can do whatever you like with it, but write your vision. Where are you going? People want to see that. Be transparent about how you do business. When you say something, go and do it. Very, very important. In fact, right at the core of leadership. When you say something, go and deliver, irrespective of how hard it is. Because if you don't stick to your word, people will stop believing in you. Okay? Like I said, when you start to implement all of this in your business, it will make a major difference compounded over a period of time. One of the most important things is foresight, guys. Where do you see your business going in the 5-10 years? Like literally, how does the industry look like? Okay, it is major. And when you start to work from that point and say, yes, my industry looks like this in 5 years' time, and then you start working, what you're going to bring is creativity. What you're going to bring is innovation. Oh, I love you, little. Hey. But yeah, anyone has any questions? Was this session helpful?
Very. Thank
Very
you.
helpful.
Thank you.
Yes, it was.
So that concludes today's session. Thank you for watching. I am going to stop the recording.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.